It's September and I'm in Zone 6 and I am still planting. How's your Victory Garden growing? Hey Provident Preppers, I'm Kylene.
And I'm Jonathan, and I really didn't need another project, but you inspired us, or inspired her, and it turned out to be a good one. So tell us about it, Mama.
Okay, what you see behind me, this was never a really beautiful spot of our house, right? We don't have much water, and so we couldn't like plant any type of grass or anything there. And so it had this dry riverbed kind of look, and the trees were there, but it needed some help. And so you guys inspired me. We decided to put a little food forest right here on this little piece of our corner property. And it's got everything that you might need in it. It's got hazelnuts, it has bush cherries, it has honeyberries and roses and a whole plethora of medicinal herbs. And along that back fence right there, those are all black raspberries. And those were actually there before, but they're incredibly pokey, right? To help people understand that they shouldn't climb over the fence into our yard. So I'm excited for you to see this in a few years. And speaking of that, today we're gonna go take a little trip two places. One is Rob and Amanda's place. Do you remember last year when we showed you their backyard? It was like just grass, right? And this year they've put all these garden beds in and it is incredibly productive. And then after we visit Rob and Amanda, we're gonna go visit Richard in UK and see what he has done with his yard.
Here's the little flower garden that we have on the north side of our yard. You can see the sunflowers are doing excellent. Only one kind of dahlia came up and is growing, although it looks like another color might finally be about to bloom that's slightly more purple. And then we did well with the gladiolas. But then here are raspberries. So the big raspberry bush in the back, those are raspberries that have come through from our neighbor for a few years now. And then we planted 50 more. Not very many have come up. So not sure what's going on there. And here is the main part of the garden. In these two beds, we've had strawberries around the edges. It's the first year for those strawberries and it's done really well considering. We've gotten a few handfuls of strawberries, and in the middle is all of our green beans and yellow beans. And we did that because they will fix nitrogen into the soil. And we also planted beans on the edges of the other beds to fix nitrogen as well. And we have actually gotten well over 30 pounds of beans from these plants. It's been awesome. I probably won't plant as many next year because it's been a lot. Here on this arch we had our butternut squash, and you can see all the leaves are gone. I had to cut them all back because we got powdery mildew. Pretty much the entire plant was quickly covered with powdery mildew, but these squash are still doing well. Some of them, it looks like, are already ripe, and hopefully the others will still ripen up. But we have well over a dozen butternut squash from, I had 3 plants there. And I move on to our first bed of tomatoes. We just started harvesting when I remembered I needed to do this update video. So this is what we've already just harvested off of these plants here. And you can see lots more in those tomato plants there. The variety in this bed here is called Moskvich. It's an heirloom, and we have been quite pleased with it. It has grown well, produced a lot. It's a nice meaty tomato, and it's just beautiful when you cut it open. Here we have our Brandywine tomatoes. You can see here some of the beans planted on the edge here on both sides. And our Brandywine is also doing really well, starting to ripen up. It turns more of into more of a pink. But this is also an heirloom. We recently just harvested this nectarine tree here, and we got 2 big, like the flats of strawberries. We took those boxes and filled them with nectarines, and we are freezing them and then gonna put them in the freeze dryer. Okay, you'll have to excuse the air conditioner. It's 100 degrees, so it's been running nonstop, but here's our archway. So the butternut squash, peas were over here, never replanted. Over here were 2 kinds of slicing cucumbers, which have done really well. And you can see I've got several here that I need to harvest. And then here on this side, we had pickling cucumbers, which also produced like crazy, but something has gotten them now. Whether, I think it might be the powdery mildew. And so it's just kind of done. But oh my goodness, here we had planted honeydew and cantaloupe. And just take a look at this. We have so many melons. It has done so well. And this is just one honeydew plant and one cantaloupe plant. Okay, here is another bed of tomatoes. Back here we had some new varieties I was trying. This is German striped. There's also a pineapple in one of these, but it wasn't growing as fast, so can't tell which one that is, but I think that's the German striped there. And then I planted watermelon on the corners of some beds to kind of sprawl over the ground, but it took forever to start growing. We have a few baby watermelons in here somewhere, but I'm not confident they'll get to full size and ripe. Several different kinds of cherry tomatoes, and they are just like, they're much taller than this. They're actually our stakes aren't tall enough. They're bending over. You can see with this one down here, I'll show you, but they're just bending over. Oh my goodness, I can't even get it up here because they're just getting so tall. Like they could go another 3 or 4 feet from the stakes. And these cherry tomatoes are just producing like crazy. The one here on the end is a Rapunzel, and right next to it is a super sweet 100. And then there's a honeycomb, that orange one, and then the yellow one in here is the yellow pear, followed by personal favorite, sun sugar. Here's our bed of beefsteaks. I've found over the years it seems like the beefsteak plant itself doesn't get as big, but it produces a lot. You can see in here we just have a lot of tomatoes. Okay, here is another bed of tomatoes. This variety is called Big Red. It's a hybrid, and it's just been okay. I'm not thrilled with it, but I want to show you a problem we've been having. You can see it here and here. We have actually been having mice eat our tomatoes, which I have never seen before. I have never had this problem. We actually were out of town with our dog, so it was safe for us to set some traps. We have caught 5 mice, and we're still setting traps. So hopefully that will solve our problem, and they will stop eating our tomatoes. They have eaten well over a dozen of our tomatoes. Here's a bed with more tomatoes. You can tell we like tomatoes. We actually make and can our own salsa and use it all through the year and love it. So we have some tomatoes here along with purple carrots. The carrots didn't do great this year. This bed was actually filled with them and they weren't growing, so we threw the tomatoes in here. And then some candy onions here on the end, which have done pretty well. I've never had onions this big, so I'm quite pleased with that. For a tomato staking system, last year we gave each tomato its own individual stake and just used these, it's like a green silicone covered wire as twist ties to attach it to the stake. We found as it got really big, that was really hard to do. There were just so many branches we were trying to bring up to a central spot. So this year we staked each corner of the bed and then did rope. It has worked okay, but we have found that the heavier the plant gets, it will drag this down. And then the plant just kind of ends up kind of twisty and cattywampus, so to speak. So I think next year we're going to try maybe the best of both worlds. Give each tomato its own stake, but then also do rope between all the stakes to allow those branches to spread out more, to have so it'll have the support of the single stake, but then be able to spread out more with the rope being in between the stakes. Okay, here's one of my other watermelon plants. You can see, and then, aren't these so cute? They're just little babies. I bet will freeze before they have a chance to get ripe. I know there's another one in here, but they're cute. So maybe we'll have better luck next year with the watermelon. This is our bed of potatoes that is now being overrun by a pumpkin, but it's actually way overdue to harvest these potatoes. We just haven't had time yet. But you can see some little little pumpkins in there. So that'll be exciting when it finally cools down where we are. It's 100 again today. It was yesterday. So it'll be fun to have pumpkins for fall. More tomatoes. This bed has Roma and San Marzano. And they're producing really well. I've been really pleased just with how everything's growing this year. Some things took a while to really start off, but things are just going crazy now. Okay, then we get back here into our 3 pepper beds, and the peppers also took a while to, I feel like, really take off, but they're doing great now. We have several varieties of peppers. Got some bell peppers here. Anaheim, poblano, you can see. Then we move over into Hungarian hot wax, which has done really well. We do have, there's one habanero plant, right? Let's see. You can't see it very well. Habanero plant right here. I will not be eating any of those. Some cayenne. Come over here and we've got lots of jalapenos and banana peppers.
These are the banana peppers.
Is that your favorite? Okay, and then back here we have our yellow zucchini, regular zucchini, some more tomatoes intermingled with corn. The mice have also been eating our corn, which is frustrating. But you learn and make adjustments and keep going. You can tell, oh my goodness, I haven't, oh my goodness. That's...
Bless my heavens.
I haven't been out, we were out of town for 5 days camping. Haven't checked this zucchini since we got back. Wow, that's nuts. Okay, here's more pumpkin. This is kind of around our peppers, and I'm so sad. I'm just seeing this has powdery mildew. I hate to cut the leaves off, but that may be what I have to do. And you can see there's actually a good sized white pumpkin growing right in there. And lastly, this is a bed of Walla Walla onions with 1 tomato. It was a volunteer. I decided to let it stay just to see what it was. There's also lots of weeds in here, but I think it's about time for these Walla Wallas to come out of the ground. They didn't get as big as I was hoping, but they're pretty good.
Hi, Jonathan and Kylene. Here's an update on the garden from the UK. So as with many places, the drought has really taken its toll on things. So remember, we had quite a lot of potatoes planted in sacks. Most of them I have harvested. Just got 1 or 2 sacks left. These have been harvested. That's just the nice compost left over. I'll show you the harvest so far. Hi Misty, say hello. So the potatoes at the front look impressive, but actually they're store-bought. The ones in the yellow tub at the back, that's about half of what we've grown. The rest are still in the ground at the moment. Onions didn't do too well either, again because of the drought. And I got them there. They've been drying in the sunlight for a couple of weeks now. Let's take you back up here. I'll show you the greenhouse, which is currently a little bit of a mess because I've just thrown the empty potato bags in there as I've been harvesting to stop them blowing around. That's what's left of the tomato plants. I'll show you what we've harvested from there. I showed you the water butts before, didn't I? So let's just have a peek in there. We've had a little bit of rain, but not much. So I've actually used about 2/3 of what was in the stored water, but it's replenished a little bit. And over here we've got that one. So a little bit, we used a little bit more than half of that one, but it has topped up a little. And then let's take you inside. We've had a new kitchen floor since we last videoed for you. So a disappointing amount of rhubarb. And the tomatoes, again because of the drought, we had something called blossom end rot. which causes the insides to go a little bit nasty like that. The ends look a little bit like leather. Anyway, I've chopped out the bad bits, salvaged what I can. Not an impressive harvest, but those are going in the freezer. And if I get any bargains of tomatoes in the store, then I'll add to those, and we're going to make our own tomato sauce. Actually, I forgot to show the apple tree. The apple tree is doing really well. The cherry did reasonably this year. Nothing left on there, we've eaten all that. But some good cooking apples and eating apples there. And behind it, got 2 pear trees, not so good on the pears, just a couple of large fruits there. Okay, so we'll talk to you again soon. Bye.
We want to thank Rob and Amanda and Richard for sharing their ideas and their excitement and their successes. Way to go.
And remember, you don't have to spend a lot of money to make things like this happen. So the rocks that we have here were a gift from my sister who had finished landscaping her place, and they had some left over. They were totally donated. The wood chips are from a free service. And the plants, I just kept looking at different places when they were closing them out to select the varieties that would work here. Yes, it takes a little bit longer, but it means that we can accomplish things like this for very little money. So don't give up on a victory garden or your own food forest just because you think it's going to cost a lot. What you need is a lot of muscle to make the work happen.
Now for the question of the day. How is your victory garden going? Share with us. Comment below. Share some photos or videos. It's wonderful. Thank you for being part of the solution.